let's do the classical versus Keynesian piece of the macroeconomics exam. First question looks familiar to you, right? Which of the following statements regarding efficiency does not belong with the others? So we're either going to find three that are efficient and one that's inefficient, or we're going to find three that are inefficient and one that is efficient. The standout here is the first one. Free enterprise is more efficient by producing the same output with a smaller quantity of resources. A is the answer. Number two, Democrats, Republicans, and Socialists are all Keynesians. The one that does not belong are libertarians. Which of the following statement does not belong with the others? When we look through this, we can identify that three of these are classical statements and one of them is a Keynesian statement. Which one is the Keynesian statement? We are right. Ignore any evidence to the contrary. Next, we have the government functions that don't belong with the others. So here we have the three libertarian government functions that are legitimate. Adjudicating disputes, preserving the peace, and protecting property rights are all proper with the free market. But providing public parks is not a function of the government. It doesn't belong with the other three. Which of these is one of Jeff Myron's myths of capitalism? When we go through this, we see that the only one that he mentioned in his Myths of Capitalism video was capitalism caused the Great Recession. That's a myth. The first statement is a classical assumption. The next one is a false statement. And this last one is a myth which he didn't address in his video. In Robert Reich's Myths of Capitalism video, he names this first one as a myth that he was trying to debunk. The other statements are, one is a classical assumption, and these two are both Keynesian ideas. One is the neo-Keynesians, the other one is an actual quote of John Maynard Keynes. Number 7, a classical economist would say that the government should hire economists to change a light bulb. Absolutely not. None. Whoever wants the light bulb changed the most will do it themselves. That's the whole idea of the unnecessary or redundancy of a government program. Now we look at these four graphs here and we see there's a shift in the demand curve to the right, an increase in demand, a decrease in demand, an increase in supply, and a decrease in supply. For the next several questions, we're going to be going through these four graphs as answers. Suppose the U.S. Transportation Safety Council required all U.S. manufacturers of autos to install expensive new safety devices in all new cars. Which graph illustrates the result? Well, that would be a decrease in supply. So that would be D. There is the next one. Which of the graphs depicts a decrease in price and an increase in quantity? That would be an increase in supply, graph C. The next one, assume the graphs depict above represent aggregate demand and short-run aggregate supply. Which of the graphs depicts an effect of an increase in population in the nation? That would be graph A, an increase in demand, aggregate demand. And then lastly, assuming the graphs depicted above represent aggregate demand and short-run aggregate supply, which of these graphs depicts the effect of an adverse supply shock? Well, a decrease in supply, we know, is represented in graph D. Answer. Choose the most useful economic question. Well, of these 5 things, all of them you might hear in a debate about energy or hydrofracking, but the only one that's a useful economic question is the first one. Is hydraulic fracturing better or worse for the environment than what we're doing now, or might reasonably do in the near future to get the energy we want? That is the question. We're looking at costs and benefits and trade-offs and marginal comparisons. That's the question that we want to get to, and that's a useful economic question. 17, Keynes believed only one of these, and the other 3 are all false from Keynes' point of view. The only one that's true is the sticky wages and rigid prices. He believed they were inflexible in the downward direction. 18, most states have instituted mandatory seatbelt laws to reduce traffic fatalities. An economist may point out that an unintended effect of these laws is that the increased in risky driving behavior results from higher safety, what we call moral hazard, and it actually has increased the number of accidents, although the accidents themselves are less fatal now with seatbelts. Number 19, in the classical view of the credit market, the price of credit is the interest rate itself. Number 20, according to classical economists, the economy always operates close to or on its PPF if the government does not intervene. That's a classical economic assumption, and with less institutional impediments, the government stays out of the way, then you'll have more growth and more full operation of the economy. Number 21, which of the following statements is false? The economy never operates close to or on its PPF. That is a false statement. The other three are all true. It always does operate at a point below its production possibilities frontier. It always operates close to or on its PPF if the government does not intervene. Number 20. Oh, I'm sorry. According to the classical economists, the economy always operates close to or on its PPF if the government does not intervene. Is the correct answer. Number 21 is the one that has classical economists are pro-business is the only false statement. The other three are all true statements. These are all true. Keynesian economists do believe that war is good for the economy. They believe that the government should steer markets, and a recession is 2 consecutive declining quarters of the GDP. No economist argues that. But classical economists are not pro-business, they are pro-consumer. Number 22, lightweight vehicles were not in high demand in the USA until the price ceiling on gas caused gasoline shortages, and that was why there was a drive for lightweight vehicles. 23, when a tariff against imported automobiles was passed in the 1960s, the policymakers did not anticipate that there would be that their tariff they were passing would actually act as an incentive for the makers of imports to innovate, come up with things like the fiberglass and lightweight engine parts and the aluminum block engine and so forth. Question 24, which of the following statements is false? There's 4 true statements here, only one is false. The false one is this one: an unsafe vehicle should never be produced. Obviously, every vehicle that has ever been produced has some level of unsafety about it, and it is impractical for us to produce vehicles that are totally safe. 25, if in a recessionary gap, the implications of downward wage inflexibility is that there would be no rightward shifts of the short-run aggregate supply curve, and that allows for persistent high unemployment if Keynes was right, and there is no sticky wages. If the sticky wages, rigid prices exist. Let's take a look at situation 24. During the winter of 73 to 74, a general system of wage and price controls, including a price ceiling on gasoline, was in force in the United States. At the beginning of 1974, some oil-producing countries imposed an oil embargo on the West. In the spring of 1974, price controls were abolished. Question: an economist would predict that the oil embargo imposed in 1974 would result in a leftward shift in the supply curve of gasoline. That's right, the foreign suppliers stopped supplying. Question 27 referred to the same situation. If no price controls had been in place, the effect of the oil embargo on the equilibrium price and quantity of gasoline would have been an increase in price, a decrease in quantity, but you would have had equilibrium and you wouldn't have any shortages. It was, in fact, the shortage was caused by the government price control. In question 28, which of the following institutional arrangements is most likely to promote growth? Well, only one of these would promote growth. The other three would are either false or partially false. So the only one that's true is unrestricted trade between nations. That one would likely to promote growth. The other ones, patent copyrights that expire quickly and are loosely enforced, doesn't promote growth. Strong government control over resource allocation decisions does not promote growth. Question 29. An economist who favored expanded government would recommend, and this is a tricky question, you're looking for an economist who favored expanded government. So, would they cut taxes? No, so A is wrong. Would they increase taxes? Yes. Would they cut taxes during inflation? No. Although some economists that abide by there may be some truth in all of these answers. Only one of them would favor expanded government in both recessions and inflation, and that one would be D. Increase in government spending during recession, that would expand government, and then tax increases during inflation, that would also increase the government power, government expansion. Question 30. It's costly to hold money because in doing so one sacrifices interest income, right? If you hold on to money and you don't have it invested, then inflation eats away at it, and also you miss out on interest income. So B is the correct answer for 30. This last one, I give you the rankings, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth in the order that they appeared. First, the USA supported the creation of Israel after World War II. Next, during the early 60s, Congress imposed tariff on imported cars based on weight. That allowed Detroit to be fat and happy without innovating, but the other countries were innovating, and imported cars became more fuel efficient. So when OPEC put an embargo on the USA and there were price controls put in place, the demand for fuel efficient autos skyrocketed. And that completes our discussion.